Matthew 18. Yeehaw. Moving into another chapter and an episode that I think the disciples, probably later in their life, not even very much later, would kind of been ashamed of. Chapter 18. At that time, the disciples came to Jesus and asked, "Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?" Why would you ask that question? Well, maybe just purely out of curiosity. Some people live by an axiom that says everything can be measured and quantified. So let's figure out who's the greatest. Really, the primary reason that anybody wants to know who's the greatest is for the sake of comparison. I'm not exempt from that by a long shot. I don't think, well, maybe you are. I think the best of you. Most of us, though, we have at least moments where we want to know, where do I fit in this hierarchy of relative greatness? The disciples weren't exempt from it either. I don't think we need to be too harsh with the disciples. I mean, think about it. Okay, they had been with Jesus now for quite a while, and they'd watched him do miracle after miracle and seen dozens, probably hundreds of lives transformed by his grace and healing and love. And somehow that didn't distract them from this quantification quandary. Look what Jesus did. He called a little child and had him stand among them. Okay, seemed like a curious way to explain this hierarchy. And then he said, "I tell you the truth, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, whoever humbles himself like this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven." So what Jesus did there, you see it, he turned it completely on its head, the standard that everybody, literally everybody in his world, the disciples' world, would have used to establish greatness. Well, think about it. In our lifetimes, who is the greatest? Muhammad Ali said he was, right? Others have not been quite as, I would say, frontal about it. Others have let their performance speak for it. Athletics, it's easy in sport to pick out the greatest because the statistics give you a quick indicator. But Jesus says it's not about statistics. It's not about power. It's not about success. What's it about? Humility. Whoever humbles himself like this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Well, here's the thing about humility. It just doesn't work for me to try to be more humble than you. Humility is it's a unique characteristic on so many levels. I like what C.S. Lewis said about it. Humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. I think he's right. Humility takes the focus off of me. This is not easy. Well, it's not easy for me anyway. Well, Jesus goes on. This is in verse 5. And whoever welcomes a little child like this in my name welcomes me. Boy, if there was ever a verse for the legitimacy of children's and youth ministry, there it is. You do realize that children's and youth ministry as a formalized endeavor in the church is quite new. When I was a kid, we had Sunday school and we had youth group. Can I tell you, they were led by volunteers who, depending on which particular time you're talking about, they weren't all very good. What I did know about those people was that most of them, probably with exception of maybe one, they liked me and they wanted me there. It's not about skill. What's it about? Humility. And when Jesus said, whoever welcomes a little child like this in my name welcomes me. Listen, it's a sidetrack here, but I think it's worth going down. There was no such thing as youth ministry then. There were just kids and adults. And some people, sociologists, make a pretty substantiated claim that there wasn't anything like adolescence until quite later in history. So that when a boy was 12, he went through bar mitzvah. And at that point in time, he was ushered into the adult company of men. Before that, he was just a kid. He did kid things. He was permitted to do kid things. Okay. All right. So I don't know why I felt like I had to go into that. But when we welcome a child in the name of Christ, that's greatness. If you are in a church that has ministry to kids, would you do yourself and the people who are giving their time and their life, their energy, and I guarantee their money to loving these kids and doing what they can to draw them toward Jesus, would you give those people some affirmation? Notice them. Go out of your way. They, be honest with you, in most churches, they go unnoticed. I'll tell you when they're noticed, is when some kid in the group does some kid thing that may be irreverent, inappropriate, bad, and then the youth people, they get noticed. How can you let this go on? I was a youth minister for 17 years. And I can just tell you, the people who served with me, nobody served under me. We served together. And the people who welcomed these little kids were undervalued and underappreciated. Don't let that happen in your church. Okay, go on, Steve. Whoever welcomes a little child like this in my name welcomes me. But, permit me to say this is a big but. But if anyone causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, it would be better for him to have a large millstone hung around his neck and to be drowned in the depths of the sea. Oh, I have to be careful. I'm going to tread on some thin ice. There are things happening today in the world of our children. Many, I hope not your kids, and I hope and pray not my grands, but there are a lot of kids who are being, I'm going to use an old term, led astray by adults. I'm going to just pick on a few. This whole thing about the gender dysphoria, meaning, am I a boy or a girl? The transitioning advice that's being given, that is, okay, that idea, I'm not going to say the people, but that idea is from the pit of hell. I'm not going to go into it right now because it'd take me a long time, but I have very strong feelings and thoughts about the way that there is a strong push in public education to push kids toward lies about who they are. Something as fundamental as their sex and gender. For those people, it'd be better for them to have a heavy millstone hung around their neck and be thrown into the sea. What was that? That's like somebody's going to get some cement shoes here and be dumped into the Jersey River. Okay, that's what we're talking about. This is not a well, everybody should have their own opinion. No. There's right and there's wrong. I didn't establish that. Neither did you. We have to interpret it, but it's not unclear. Well, when we cause one of these little ones to sin, man, the consequences are huge and horrible. Now, I could go on and on about the many ways that public education has grown. Now, if you're a teacher in public education, I'm trusting that you are standing against the wind, that you are swimming upstream, that even the constraints of government, bureaucratic regulation and law, you still are standing against the grain and standing for what is right and true. There are those who are not. Okay, that's enough. You get the point. Let's bring it down now from the schoolhouse to my house. How do our kids and grandkids learn stuff? Well, there's two big ways: by being told and by being shown. It's important for you and me, if you're a parent or a grandparent, it's very important for us to tell our kids about what is good and right. And the other side of that coin is what is not good and what is not right. That is essential, but what sticks with a kid most is what they see me do. If I say one thing and do another, that sets them up for a dissonance that's unnecessary. I don't want to cause a little one, any one of my 4 grandkids, and 2 of them are not little anymore, but I don't want to cause them to stumble by my example. So if you get to be around your grandkids, if you're a grandparent, don't blow that off, and don't sit on your backside and wish they'd let you watch your TV show. Interact. describe for them, and then show them a life that they can imitate and emulate. The life of these little ones, Jesus made the critical point. It matters to him. It should matter to us. Well, it's enough for today. See you next time on Soul Care with Stevie Boy.